Good day. We are looking at next growth currencies outlook, and this week I am discussing the disproportionate weakening of the US dollar. All graphs taken this morning at around 8 o'clock. We are UTC +2. Last week and 4 weeks ago, we had some disproportionate weakening of the dollar through 3 speculative days, driving the US dollar weaker. 29 and 30 July, that was the 31st of July, that was this Monday, the 3rd of August, and then again last week, Wednesday, the 19th of August. So the dollar, because of 3 speculative days, were driven much weaker, but failed to breach 117 support over there. And remember, in all my previous outlooks, I said they would be nullified should the dollar weaken strong through 117. So these 3 days had a significant influence on our currency, the ZAR, which I will come around in the next video. Last week we had Wednesday, we had we had this bond purchases by the US Treasury, and that created a vote of no confidence in US dollar, with the US index right through support. Before last week, the US index was sitting at strong support, and with the implication for me that the US dollar would be strengthening, in other words, going upwards towards above 100 to 201. But that was the effect of the US bond purchases last week, Wednesday, as a result of a no confidence vote in the US dollar. In any event, the index is above 98, which generally makes the US index, in my view, still marginally bullish. Obviously, it would be very bullish above 100, not to speak of 102. But if the US index would be dropping below 98, it would also nullify this outlook, as is the case with a US dollar weakening through 117 per euro. So the effect of yen intervention is that the yen obviously strengthened for 3 days, the last 3 working days in July. You can also see on Friday, the 31st of July, how the yen immediately came back from a high of 155 to close just a weaker than 157. And I'm saying, has it not been for the 19th August bond buying, the yen would have carried on weakening and would have been between 160 and 161 yen over there, and was only saved by the bond buying. So the effect of a yen intervention is really very, very limited, in my view, in the sense that the yen would have been weakening from a high of 155 into 160 to 161 in this area, had it not been for the yen intervention. So very slight effect of yen intervention 3 weeks down the line. Then we come to the bond purchases. This is last week. This is the yield on the 30-year benchmark, which was the primary target of the bond purchases. In itself, a story on its own, in my view, to help prevent Japan as a country going into default because of their enormous government debt, and should they be going into default because of rising long end yields, they would surely be selling their enormous holding of US treasuries and thereby raising the yields upwards. Again, the effect is so slight that I'm making the statement that if you haven't known about the event, you wouldn't have spotted the effect of the event. So slight is the effect of the yield of the bond purchases last week, Wednesday. So I'm saying the very slight effect of the events had a disproportionate effect on US dollar weakening. That's why in capital letters. So that was the week of yen intervention. That was last week, specifically Wednesday and Thursday, after the bond purchases, with the USD sitting just stronger than 170. Again, disproportionate effect on USD weakening, where you have a very slight effect of the events, and therefore I have no alternative but to call the dollar stronger than 116 over there in the days and week to come. In any event, this outlook would be nullified should the dollar weaken through 117. Disproportionate by implication, pointing to a speculative effect. Looking at the Swiss, and I'm saying my previous views just discussed, is confirmed by the Swiss, hardly strengthening at all. If the dollar is so weak structurally, I'm referring to those 2 weeks, surely one would have expected the Swiss to strengthen through 79 Swiss per US dollar towards 77, and in the greater scheme of things, the Swiss, in my view, hardly moved at all. Again, as I said over there, if the event was unknown in the case of the 30-year benchmark, you would not be able to spot the effects of the events on the Swiss, as if this was just a normal trading of the Swiss against the dollar. This brings me in the final analysis to the US 30-year benchmark. We've looked at a 3-year chart. This is weekly. Looking at the 20-year chart, we see that the yields on a 30-year benchmark is almost exactly where the yields were during the middle of 2007, before the 2008 world financial crisis. So what happened? A global capital, because of first the anticipation of the global financial crisis in 2008, flowed into US treasuries, dropping the yields, as you can see there. And this was the last quarter of 2008, when US capital was repatriated to the US globally, causing a drop in yields. Now we're sitting there again, yields almost where we were in the middle of 2007. And I'm saying that in the idealized business cycle that you can find in John Murphy's book, Intermarket Analysis, bonds break down first. So if the yields are high to this extent, then bonds prices have been declining all along. Bonds break down first before equities. And like I said, I'm referring to mid-2007, before the 2008 financial crisis. Obviously, there would be analysts claiming that this time would be different. There's no time that's different from the past. So if we have consensus that bonds are breaking down, and this might be, or surely, a very good indication of the stage of the business cycle where bonds break first and then equities, then I'm again looking at the Nasdaq. There is a saying that what is good for the Nasdaq is good for US equities. If that is the case, then surely the opposite must also be true. The Nasdaq is again last week has again been struggling at 30,000 points. And what will happen if the Nasdaq just starts dropping down into this resistance area of around support area, excuse me, of around 25,000 points, you are most likely to get US dollar strength because of global capital flowing into US treasuries. So in summary, it has been shown in the first slide that the effects of US market intervention the past 3 weeks, first buying of yen, that was the end of July, and then US bonds last Wednesday was so slight, but weakened the US dollar disproportionately. The US dollar call therefore remains stronger to below 116 per euro, supported by a generally bullish US dollar index still above 98 points, as well as little movement in the Swiss that left the Swiss generally weak above 79.79 Swiss per US dollar. If what is good for the Nasdaq is good for the US equities, the opposite must also be true. After 2 strong weeks, the Nasdaq is again struggling at 30,000 points. Let's look at that quickly. There you see the Nasdaq came back from breaking down for 3 weeks in a row, but again failed to breach 30,000 points. After 2 strong weeks, the Nasdaq is again struggling at 30,000 points. This comes at a time when US 30-year yields are almost at the exact levels as mid-2007 before the 2008 world financial crisis. If we look at that quickly, there you see that yields are at 5.24%. They were just below 5.5% at the highest point over there. So that means bonds, 30-year bonds, the prices of 30-year bonds were at the lowest at that point in time. The first effects of this is repatriation of US capital and the flight to safety of US treasuries, both of which will strengthen the US dollar considerably. If you can remember, the 4th quarter of 2008, when the rand weakened by a rand overnight, just because of this repatriation of US capital and the flight to the safety of US treasuries. This is an outlook. I'm not writing history reports. Outlooks will be wrong. This outlook is nullified when the USD weakens through 117. I've discussed that. This is an outlook for currencies, not any other financial instrument. Note the disclaimers at the bottom of each graph until we talk again. That will be my next video on the South African currency.